Look at that. The old flathead Ford just breathed life for the first time in almost 50 years of being off the road. All right, so we've got the hood of our 1950 Ford Custom two-door up here in the shop today. We're gonna dive into this thing and see if we can't get this engine to turn over, possibly start and run under its own power for the first time in what's believed to be about 50 years. First, I repaired the battery tray because it was rusted through from all the corrosion. Here's what I was talking about with the battery tray, and I can actually tell you that the camera is making this look a little bit worse than it actually is, but what we have here is just a bunch of years of battery corrosion, and it's built up, and the battery tray again was in horrible shape. You guys saw that. So first thing we're going to do is try to clean up all of this nasty old battery corrosion. Pardon the background noise, I've got my fan and my wood burning stove going back there, but anyway, so we got this area cleaned up, and our cleaned up and repaired battery tray is installed. Now the plan will be to come back and refinish and clean those areas up, but I just wanted to get the corrosion off and throw this battery tray in because we have to see if our engine is even going to be any good. All right, y'all, I'm gonna start pulling these spark plugs and let's see what kind of shape this engine's in. Yeah, I'm really concerned about all this moisture. I mean, this engine, pretty sure it turns by hand. I've turned it before just to make sure it wasn't stuck. I thought. Yeah, see? I can turn it by hand. So I know it's not stuck. So that's what's keeping me happy here, at least at this point. Let's go ahead and label that one. Number F. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why I did that. I never do that. But anyway, still know. 7 wire. And we'll go ahead and label number 8. Okay, let's pull the rest of these plugs. This one I'm going to check just without the ratchet and see if I can turn it by hand. Yep, look at that. Oh man. Someone help me understand. Okay, so this is our first good looking plug. The first one without any rust really or corrosion. A little bit on the threads, but nothing inside that plug. So this is our first decent looking one, I'm gonna say. Straight number 8. And number 8 is tight. Okay. Good or bad sign? Y'all guess. Guess in the comments. Wasn't that tight. Just had to bump it loose. Number 8. Ooh. Damn. Sorry, darn it. That one's got like moisture on it, I guess. It doesn't look like oil. Ugh, crusty. Good thing we're pulling these out. We are going to scope these cylinders and see what's going on inside. All right, so again, y'all have just got my cheap little bore scope here. It's probably going to be hard for y'all to see, but if I have an opportunity to show you something, I'll try to give you a close-up. This is how little I know about these flatheads. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'm learning as I go with these. But what I don't see is any major like corrosion or anything like that. So I'm going to move around to the other side. I'm going to go ahead and remove the intake assembly and pull the plugs out of that side, and then we'll shoot a little bit of penetrating oil inside the cylinders, maybe give that a little time to soak, work on something else, come back and see if we can't get one full rotation out of this engine. All right, so it looks like they give you this really conveniently placed, almost like a V-band, y'all. This is, what's cool is, you know, the racing parts that we use today, take V-bands for example. You know, if you're a turbo guy, you know what I'm talking about. But like V-bands are a clamping method that everybody thinks, you know, is something new, but check this out, y'all. Look at that. That right there is just a V-band that goes on the inlet of the carburetor. 1950, original equipment, believed to be original, at least, is using V-bands, so pretty cool. But now we're going to zip these spark plugs out and check these cylinders or these heads over here, just see if we have any major signs of issues, and then we'll move on from there to lubing up these cylinders. Ooh, look at this one. Oily. That's what I expected for all of them. Y'all, check this out. Tell me you can't still, like, this is, these are original. Gotta be, well, not original maybe, but period correct for sure. That is crazy. But anyway, all the ones on the passenger side were between this and this. This is the worst one as far as corrosion, which is not anywhere near as bad as the worst one on the driver's side. So let's see if we can get this thing to make one full revolution. Going clockwise, I believe, is the correct direction. All right, y'all. Now we got the right tool for the job. There we go. Okay, there we go. See, this engine turns fairly easily. Oh, I think it's in gear. See, this thing's turning. Okay, this thing's turning real easy. I don't think we have a moisture problem in there. And I'm not really feeling any, you know, I was definitely feeling resistance, but like nothing like bad, like rust or anything like that. So I think we're in good shape. So what we might try next is going ahead and hooking up a battery to this thing. Actually, we'll unhook the fuel from the tank because the tank smells of varnish, and I definitely don't want to run that into this fuel pump. But other than that, we're gonna then try to spin this engine over with the key. So, you know, I didn't feel any stuck valves or anything. Now that we've made sure that the engine can turn one full revolution, cool thing about these engines that if you got the Police Interceptor engine, the oil pan has a access panel on it for cleaning out the pickup screen. So we'll see that when we crawl under this thing here in just a minute. I'm gonna do my best to show y'all what I'm talking about. So this panel here is the one where all the corrosion is on top of this one, this piece right here. This car was definitely well greased and maintained. You can tell from how much grease and buildup is on everything, but they just didn't do a great job of cleaning it out. But all right, y'all have to kind of pardon the angle. I'm stretched out a little bit here, but anyway, this is the oil pan on this car. And if you see there, you've got the bigger plug in the middle. That's the oil drain plug. But then what is unique about this is that there's a plate with, it looks like maybe 6 to 8 bolts holding it on, or studs holding that plate on. And that is there because the police engines were expected to have higher rates of usage, so higher duty cycles. And so they thought that it would be better to give access to clean out the pickup screen on these because they were not filtered oil. And again, they knew that they would have more wear and tear on these engines. So let's pull the lid off our oil filter housing here and see what lies beneath. Looking like it might be stuck. Shoo! Yo, this, if that's oil, it smells like nothing but gasoline. All right, y'all, so we got the oil filter system cleaned out and the oil drained from the engine. I ended up using my little brake bleeder deal to suck the excess oil out of that filter housing because it was not draining. And as you can see on the filter here, it was about that deep in there. So a little bit of sheen to that oil, but again, that is the oil that's out of the housing. So not unexpected as far as that having a little bit of material in it. But anyway, so we got that done. Again, the oil pan is drained. All of our spark plugs are still out. We're gonna go ahead and pull this oil cap off and start filling this thing with some oil, and then we'll get to cranking this thing over. Okay, so with our filter element installed, put the new gasket in this piece, and the oil filter housing is reassembled. We'll try to get our battery cables cleaned up a little bit. It's still pretty nasty. And then we'll drop the battery in and see if we can get this thing to turn over with the key. A good thing. So I got the battery hooked up and nothing sparked or sounded like it was about to catch fire or smoke or anything. So I guess we'll jump inside and turn a key and see if we can get something to happen. So let's get in and crank on this key. got it over here in the glove box. I don't know if I showed you guys this yet, but this is the little key pouch that holds all the keys. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's the place that I would have guessed sold this car new. Ford dealership. The telephone number was 1234. Imagine that. Oh, that's it. So nothing is happening at all. Not, oh wait, hold on. We've got dome lights. Okay, I think this is actually the button to start the car. But I don't quite want to push that yet. I realized that we forgot to unhook the fuel line from the fuel pump, so let's go do that real quick and then we'll jump back in here and twist this key. Okay, so we got the fuel line here removed that comes from the tank up into our fuel pump and then into our carburetor. And if you guys watching know what I say when I'm talking about varnish and the smell, there was liquid fuel in that fuel line still from all these years, and let me tell you, it is the worst smelling of varnished fuel that I think I've ever smelled. Let's jump back in this thing and see if we can get it to turn over. Alright, so we got the car in neutral. Let's hit this key one more time. And I'm going to hold down the clutch while I bump the starter button. Here we go. Okay, we're getting a click from the starter. Almost like it doesn't have enough juice to turn over, which is quite possible because I bought this battery from Napa about 3-4 weeks ago, and it's been sitting and it's been cold here and it hasn't been on the charger, so we might have a bad connection still with those wires, or possibly a low battery. Okay guys, so we just checked our battery voltage and we've got 6.3 volts at the battery posts, but let's go ahead and check it with the lugs on, and we'll check up here on the material so that we can tell if we've got a bad connection. So if we check like here and here, we'll know if there's enough corrosion to make us have a lower voltage reading. Okay, cleaned up battery terminals, checked voltages. Let's jump back in and see if we can get this thing to crank. Alright, so we know it's in neutral. Foot on the clutch. Key in the on position. And let's see. Oh, we got it to crank. Look at that. Oh, wow. Okay, almost effortless cranking once you kind of got to bump it one good time. But that's great. I didn't hear any bad noises. Of course, we don't have plugs in right now, but like nothing sounded bad. So that's a good sign. That's a sign that we can move forward and start working on spark and fuel and, you know, work on getting this thing going. So let's get after it. I'm just finishing up dropping in a new set of plugs, and then we're going to move on to the ignition system. It looks like we've got maybe some kind of aftermarket coil on this thing, so might have been a little hot rodding down on the engine at one point in time. Let's get this cap off and see what we're working with as far as the points and condenser, which I have all of those available new to replace what is here. Okay, at first glance, not horrible, but definitely in need of some repair here. So as you can see, our rotor button tip is corroded a little bit and kind of burnt up, and then our points here look like they've got a decent bit of corrosion on them. What we're going to do is just go ahead and replace all of the components. That way we know they're all good and new, and we're not fighting some issue. We have the parts here, so I think it's best to go ahead and use them. Okay, y'all, we got the new components in the distributor. We got our brand new cap here. I'm gonna drop it on. All right, so we got that on. Push these clips on. And now what we can do is start moving our wires over from the old one to the new one by one. That way we don't get any of them mixed up. And then we have the rest of our wires to put back on the plugs, but they're all numbered from earlier when we took them off. So we're gonna get this all buttoned up, and then we'll start checking for spark, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so what I've got here is some probably way too stoutly mixed 2-stroke oil and gas. I put about a 1/2 to 3/4 of an ounce roughly of 2-stroke oil, and then about 10 ounces of gasoline. The whole point of that is to give this engine something to burn, but something that will hopefully help lubricate the cylinders and valves and all the moving parts in this engine that will hopefully keep it from, you know, self-destructing from running. But anyway, so we're going to put a little bit of this in the carb, and then we're going to give this thing a crank and see if we can't get some spark and some gas to make explosions, and see if we can blow this thing out. So let's give it a shot. Okay, we'll try to get a little bit of fuel in the inlet of this carburetor. I'm just going to kind of try to squirt some in there and just give that little bit a go real quick. So I think our key is on. Yep, key's on from where we tested the spark. Let's hit the button and see what happens. Oh, we gotta hook our battery back up. That's important. All right, now let's give it a try. What? Y'all. Did y'all just see that? Holy crap. The old flathead Ford just breathed life for the first time in almost 50 years of being off the road. I am so excited to hear that engine run, y'all, without any kind of, I mean, it just ran so smooth. I bet if we get some good fuel going to this carburetor, this thing will probably just sit and run no problem. So I think we're going to work on that next, is get this carburetor pulled off of here. We've got a rebuild kit over on the workbench, and we might see if we can't get this thing to idle on its own before we end out this video, part 1 of reviving this old 1950 shoebox Ford. Can't tell, I already kind of rigged up a fuel tank here. The stock one is pretty bad. It's got old gas in it from, you know, 40, 50 years ago. But we went through the carburetor. We kind of went through the fuel pump a little bit. I didn't have a rebuild kit for it, but I cleaned it up and hooked everything back up. And we should be able to choke it here. It hasn't run in probably a week or two. I actually got all this stuff done, did start up the car, but I want to show you guys that it does run, and it actually sounds decent. Yep. Look at that. Hey, no. Come on. Ah. All right, close the choke again. Maybe it needs the choke. What do I know about starting up an old flathead? Nothing. Apparently. Nothing. Yep. We must not be getting any fuel. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been just an absolute adventure with you guys to round out this video. This will it run. So this car, again, sitting for 50 years, pulled out of a basement, flathead Ford. Very cool car. We're going to have a lot more content on this car coming up next few weeks. This is our new project. We're going to the Redneck Rumble again. So if you remember in other videos, I've talked about the Redneck Rumble. We're going back this year, of course, in June with this car, and we've got some really special, cool stuff planned. So thank you guys for sticking around this long. This Will It Run has been really fun because I bought this car, paid up a little bit for it because of what it is, and I'm very happy to see that it's gonna run. And again, we've got a lot to do, but this thing is gonna be sweet. So thank you guys again. Hit like, hit subscribe. Have a good one. First, I repaired the battery tray because it was rusted through from all the corrosion.